Your thoughts becomes your beliefs becomes your actions becomes your habits. As a sales rep right now in this time, in this period in history, we need to make sure we're forming really good habits that's going to help us thrive and succeed in our role as sales reps. But not only during this time, whenever you're watching this video or listening to this podcast, you need to form good habit. And my guest today is going to tell us exactly what you should do to form the greatest habits for sales to help you thrive and succeed. It's good. It's real good. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, as you heard in the teaser, we're going to talk about your habits, some sales habits that you need to develop and how you can go about developing them. But before that, I want you to develop a habit. If you're watching this for the very first time or watching any of our videos, or maybe you're watching this video and you love our content, go ahead and hit subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to our podcast as well. And then on app, if you're listening to this or watching this video, hit that chime when you subscribe, because we want you to get the notification so you can be the first to know whenever we have great content out, like this episode. This episode today, our friend Mark Evans is going to talk to us about how we can build those habits. Now, Mark, the reason why he's so relevant or so effective for this particular episode, Mark actually runs sales teams. Mark runs an organization. Mark knows sales inside and out. And he's going to talk about some of the things that he learned from his mistakes and some of the things that will help you from helping his team to succeed. And that comes down to building good habits. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive into the episode. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, Donald. Thanks for having me on. I'm fired up to be here.
Oh, man, I'm super excited. And before we jumped into the call today, Mark and I were talking on the pre-call, and Mark told me great news. We're going to be neighbors. He's going to move down to Florida in sometime this year, right?
Late July. Yep.
Late
so
July.
Be like a couple days later, I'll be knocking on your door asking for a cup of sugar.
Can I get some sugar? I'm like, sure. Come on, get some, Mark. Well, we're excited to have you come down to Florida, and we look forward to connecting further in person. And the beautiful thing about that, hopefully by then we can camp out and go to a breakfast or lunch or something, dinner, and be in not have to be totally distant. But,
I look forward to those days.
Yeah, it's coming. I feel it, man. And I'm looking forward to talking to you today. We're going to talk about how can we build good habits in sales. I'm a big believer in habits, and I know I bragged about you a little bit in a teaser why I felt you're qualified to talk about this. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I've been a lifelong salesperson. So my parents had a small business when I was growing up, so I got an early start in the career of sales. My dad would load up a backpack, or he'd give me like a box of scratch pads. They ran a small print shop in the local town that I was. And I'd go out and I'd try to, hawk these scratch pads and whatever like printed goods that we had at the time. So I cut my teeth at an early age. I've always been in sales, went to college, and then after that got into professional selling. College didn't really prepare me for anything from the sales perspective. Like, here's the piece of paper, go out and have fun. However, I always knew that I wanted to be in sales. So I started selling right out of school, helped build some really fast-growing organizations, some 5,000 companies, helped really grow some successful sales teams. Some from, just 2 or 3, 5 or 6 members of the sales team, all the way up to about 70 or so different sales and customer service people. So yeah, some fast growth, learned a lot, made so many mistakes, which is good now, right? And so 18 months ago, I started my own sales consultancy where I help companies primarily build sales playbooks. And so taking that disciplined action, right? Those things they know they need to do, and putting that into a playbook in which they should be executing on a day-to-day basis.
Oh man, I'm a big believer in playbooks, a big follower of them, because you do need to have that. And you think about it so much. I just had a conversation with a guy earlier today, and one of the things he was talking about was we fell on this concept of how salespeople tend to wing it in sales. So often it's like he said, and I quote, Tim Kantz said, don't go and practice on your customers. You need to practice before the time between your customers. So before you meet with that customer, you should be practicing your output, your message, your strategy, how you're going to go about finding them, as opposed to when I get on a call with you, then I'm going to practice. That's a disservice to you, disservice to the industry, and disservice to my company. If I am the first time I am trying to have a conversations with you and ask effective question is the only time when I'm asking the questions is only when I'm meeting with you for the first time. I should have known those questions or prepped or be able to prepare for that conversation. Am I making sense with that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's where a lot of salespeople get a bad rap, right? Because they're trying new things, they're shooting from the hip, and people can feel that, or at least I feel that when I'm a prospect. I can tell when that salesperson isn't ready. They're not asking questions that are even coming close to trying to articulate some sort of value or some sort of need for me. So yeah, I totally recognize with that and agree 100% with you.
Oh man. Well, let's talk about this for a little bit. Building that mindset for sales. What do you mean? What does that mean to you when it comes towards building that mindset?
Yeah, well, I really liked what you mentioned before, right? Not practicing on your prospects. So I think that's a really key differential between what I would say salespeople that are just in it because they're in it, right? Because they couldn't get another job, and sales professionals that, right, want to be professionals. And I'm sure you've had that experience, Donald. I know I've certainly had that experience of being with people that they didn't really want to be in this job, right? They took it because, that's what Indeed told them to apply for. And well, we're always hiring for salespeople. But those true professionals, I think, are the ones that really craft, right? They're really all about the craft. Like Bill Belichick at the New England Patriots, he has something I think called like the process, or maybe that's Nick Saban down at Alabama, right? Where true sales professionals are really intrigued by the craft of sales, right? That practice element that, hey, I'm not going to try a brand new question on you like it's the first time, right? I'm going to be very disciplined in my approach. I'm going to practice my approach so that when it is game time, when the lights are on, I'm actually going to be able to play at my best, because that's the respect you deserve as a prospect.
Yeah, no, that just makes so much sense. And I think there's a difference that needs to happen. And you're the first time now I'm making this distinction after all these years of selling. You helped me to realize, and I may have to share that coinage with you and give you some credit for it. But there's a difference between a salesperson and then the sales professional. And I think we, just like, you're varsity, we should have that distinction where someone becomes a pro at it. Anyone can come into sales and that's that low barrier of entry that I do not necessarily like, but I'm very grateful that I was able to enter into the sales world. But there needs to be that caliber of the distinction, because the order takers, I would probably say, are the people who are going to do it just to do it, but then a professional. And even in basketball, and a lot of my episodes I've been talking about The Last Dance with MJ, Michael Jordan. If you saw that, or anyone underneath planet Earth, probably got a chance to hear about it. But the idea, when you become a professional basketball player, it takes so much to get to that point. Not everyone becomes a pro at basketball, but even at a pro level, not everyone is able to perform at a high caliber level. And I think that's where those individuals, like you're saying, are becoming obsessive and being able to have that machine or the craft, or what can I do to be better? Those are the ones that becomes the GOAT, or the greatest of their industry, or greatest of their company. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, I totally agree. And so I think there's an element that separates the professional salesperson. There's that practice element, right? Kind of like what we're talking about right now, that before the game, before the lights come on, right? I've got 2 kids, and I would never let them participate in the sports that they're in, which is swimming and golf, if they didn't attend the practices, right? Like if my daughter just wanted to swim the meets, like I'd be like, no, you can't do that. Like you've got to put in the work, right? You got to put in the practice. So I think that's one. But then the second one, I would say, is your level of preparation too. And we talked a little bit about this before, but I think it bears diving into a little bit more. So I love how you go with the MJ and The Last Dance. I haven't seen that series yet. I think I'm like one of the last people to actually ever watch that. So I will get around to it. It's like on my radar. However, I really like thinking of it as a chef, right? And so if you've ever been in a restaurant, a lot of people, right, the chef just doesn't show up 30 minutes before dinner service and is like, hey, Donald, I wonder what we're serving tonight. Like, what do you think? Well, no, they're there, 6, 7, 8 hours before, prepping the ingredients, chopping meat, chopping vegetables, getting the sauces just right, so that when it is time, right, when the guests come, which is, the bright lights or being on stage, or that's the game for that chef, they're ready, they're prepared, they can have a great dinner service. And there's elements of that that are good for sales, right? There's elements of that that we can take and apply to the sales profession if you want to be a sales professional. So that means showing up. That means really understanding who is your ideal customer. What are the problems that they're having? Not just what are the problems that they're having 6 months ago, like pre-COVID, but what are they having like right now today? Like, can you understand, can you feel that, hey, they're trying to homeschool their child on one end of the dining room table while also trying to like readjust their budget for this upcoming quarter? Can you understand that? And are you willing to take a level of empathy and just insight into what's actually going on in their day? Because that preparation is going to separate you from all the other also rans and the second and third place finishers.
So true, Mark. Why do you feel that people do not take the approach of coming early or doing that practice, so to speak, in professional sales right now? Why do you think that's the case?
Oh, well, it's super hard. I mean, like to get on in an actual practice sense, it's not easy. Like to sit down and I've got this drill that I like running with my clients and other individuals. I call it the triangle drill. And it's basically you get 3 people in a room or on a Zoom call, which is what we're pivoting to now. And you basically go through, one person's the observer, one's the prospect, and one's the salesperson. And you just role practice and role play some different scenarios and some objections. You don't try to be the prospect from hell, but you want to put that salesperson through some of their paces. And that's really difficult to like sit down and actually practice. It's uncomfortable. You don't want to hear the sound of your own voice. So I think that's really where it is, right? And then as a sales management perspective, a lot of sales managers don't put that level of focus on, hey, we are going to practice, right? They don't create that culture of, hey, we've done well, but we want to take it to the next level. Like good is not good enough. We want to get to a level of great.
Oh man, so I'm loving it. We're there. So let's go into this idea of building good habits. We kind of prepped this up, really well so far. But I want to talk a little bit on the habits. How do we build good habits for sales, or what's the first thing I should be doing to build that good habit if I'm a sales rep?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I can tell you all the things not to do because as a early entry level salesperson, I made all the mistakes, right? Like shot from all the hip. Had the worst sales habits, and by no means am I like this, perfect sales discipline person. Man, I have terrible days. I have terrible hours. I'll find myself on social media when I should be making prospecting calls. So I totally get it. And I think it really starts, at least for me, right? I think it really starts with what's that end goal in mind. So what does that mean to you? So if you're a sales producer, what does that mean from an annual basis? Like, what's your big goal? And I like to have 5 big goals. I call them my big 5. And so basically my big 5 is something that I carry around with me at any time. And it's a combination of the personal goals I want to have. It's a combination of my family goals and then my professional goals as well. I keep that on me. And so I'm really always thinking about, all right, what is that big goal that I have? And then I try to reverse engineer it. And this is nothing new here, right? We've all heard this. But it's a matter of, I think, breaking it down into more actionable chunks from the month to the week to even to the day, and then having some level of accountability for yourself. So either developing a scorecard for yourself, a personal individual scorecard, and then giving severe accountability on it. And that's not just I'm going to look at it at the end of the day, and if I didn't complete these tasks to take me towards my end goal, shucks, that's too bad. No, you got to put some really big, I would call it hooks into it, right? So I've got a client of mine that really, he wanted to achieve something. He wanted to get a goal. So we drilled down and we came up with the 5 activities he needs to do every single day in order to achieve that goal. And so in order to set up some level of accountability, if he didn't do these day-to-day activities every single day, and if he didn't do it for I think it was 2 days in a row, well, he wrote me a check in which it was in his name, and it was towards an organization that he really disliked, he really despised. And so if he didn't do that for 2 days in a row, I would deposit that check to that organization. So he'd forever have donated to an organization that he fundamentally believed different from, and would always be on their rolls. He'd get their mail and get their emails and stuff like that too.
One of my friends, he talked about he used a strategy with himself to to the idea of a charity, of some, not a charity, but a group that he doesn't stand for, or doesn't like. So
Yeah.
I can see probably where he got it from. You probably worked with him in the past.
I've heard a couple other people do that. And the reason why you're hearing about it is because it works, right? If
Yeah,
you don't want to be shown, like if you absolutely hate pineapple, well, you're not going to, make a donation to the Dole Pineapple Corporation, right?
yeah.
And you don't ever want to be associated with that. So yeah, it can be a really powerful motivator.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. We'll ask another question, but I want to finish up on this thought. So, doing these things will help us to build a habit. Is to making sure the scorecard, or making that process, or a checklist of things that we need to do. Is there anything else that we can do to be able to make that that shift to build the right habits for sales?
That's a really good question. I think it comes down, for at least me, and from how I kind of look at things, I think it comes down to a matter of a couple of things. Like, number one, are you being honest with yourself? Like, I think that's a big thing that I even struggle with, right? Like, am I lying to myself? Like, do I really want these goals? And if
Yes.
so, am I willing to make the changes for it? And do I want them for me? Not just because like everybody else thinks they're cool, or there's some sort of like vanity metric or vanity goal. Like, do I really believe in that goal? And do I really want that? I think that's the really first question you should ask yourself. Like, is this going to matter to you when the chips are down? Well, I can't say this for you, Donald, but I always use this with like people in Wisconsin, right? Like, what's going to get you to pick up the phone when it's February 3rd? Like, you haven't seen the sun, because this happens in Wisconsin, right? You haven't seen the sun for like 3 weeks. It's -20 when you get up to go to bed, and it's like -10. It warms up to like 3 degrees, at night. Like, that phone is going to feel like it's 300 pounds. So what's going to get you to pick that up and to make that next call, to send that next email? And it's got to be a goal that you are really excited about, not something that you're hoping that like, oh, well, my spouse will really like this, or, my parents will really like this. Like, no, what's it going to do for you is where I'd really, really look at and investigate.
Oh yeah. So it's coming back down to that purpose, or that vision that you have, that why, or something that's going to propel you beyond that. Will help with those habits that you're sharing there.
Yeah, definitely.
You also well, how can we make the tactical thinking one of our sales habits? So how can we? Sorry, I wrote this down wrong. How can we make tactical thinking one of our sales habits, and how will that impact our success?
So tactical thinking. So talking about taking the actual tactics and applying it to your everyday is what I assume the question would be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple things. So number one, like we talked about before, right, getting some accountability and developing really that kind of day-to-day scorecard is what I'd really recommend. So that's the first one. But then you've got to do those activities. And so one of the things that I've recommended, and it's become more popular, I think, since the quarantine has happened, is something I call the power hour. I don't know about you, Donald, but you've probably been doing Zooms and you've been doing interviews like this for a long time. But a lot of salespeople, they're really stepping into, and a lot of sales managers and other positions, right? They're spending more and more of their time on Zoom calls. And I think, right? I think the New York Post wrote an article, maybe it was the Wall Street Journal last week, about Zoom fatigue, right? And so one of the tactics that you can do is to really try to cut out what I call the almighty power hour. And when I say cut out, I mean reserve just an hour a day, 60 minutes at a minimum, of time that you're only going to dedicate to achieving those end goals, right? And doing those activities that are on the scorecard that are going to accelerate you there. So for example, for a salesperson, this could be, hey, for 1 hour, all I'm going to concentrate on is prospecting and reaching out to people I haven't talked to before. Because as you and I know, Donald, or at least I've done this in the past, right? When there's something I don't want to do, which is often for me prospecting, even the dishes look really good, or like even vacuuming my office is like, yeah, like I should probably do that. Yeah.
The dishes became really good for me because of my phone and tablet. So sometimes in the evening when I need to do something, and I was like, you know what, I can catch up on a series and do the dishes, even though I should be probably working on that content or finishing up that chapter for the book.
Yeah, that is such a pro move. So you've got like the iPad up, you're watching, catching up on a show.
and doing the doing the dishes there, right? So that's why the dishes doesn't become this bad, nasty thing anymore. I need to make it a bad, nasty thing. I think I need to take that tablet and a phone away from that.
Donald, there are levels to this game, man. That is a pro tip right there from a varsity athlete, ladies and gentlemen.
My wife knows that she's always like, "Oh, here he goes again," that evening time, late evening. But it does it, and I'm not going to knock it too hard, but it gives an opportunity for me to unwind. But I go back to what you're sharing there, especially now that we're working from home. I think that more and more people, all of a sudden, like you said, that pile of laundry becomes a priority, or that the dishes becomes a priority, or the vacuum in the backyard, or fixing a lawnmower because you're home. But yeah, all of those could be priorities, but it's not necessarily your power hour or those time things, those things on your scorecard, as you share, that should be done today at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's not lawnmower time. Lawnmower is Saturday at 11 a.m. That's totally fine for that.
Yeah. Well, it's so easy now, right? The barrier to entry to go out and to work on the lawnmower, go vacuum the living room or something. It's so low. And so I really think you need to have that one anchor in your day. And I recommend doing it sooner than later, because once you do that, right, you and I both know what it feels like to get those big goals accomplished, right? To eat that frog, as Brian Tracy would say. The rest of your day just seems to go a lot better, especially when you're prospecting, right? Especially when you're putting things in at the top of the funnel and it's helping you generate meetings and potential deals. So I think that's a really positive thing. And then the second one, especially now, I would really look at, and if you're managing a sales team, I would have you strongly consider this, is block just one day a week or one day every other week where you say, hey, we're not going to have meetings, right? We're just going to focus on, our one thing, right? Or we're just going to focus on our scorecard, because we're getting, I don't know about you, but I feel like, and from the companies I'm working with, they're getting meeting fatigue, right? It's constant meeting. And I don't know whether it's like the platform of Zoom itself or something else that's going along with it, but it seems to be very structured, like from 9 to 9:30, and then I get 2 minutes to eat lunch, and then from 9:35 to 10:35, I've got another meeting, and it just stacks and stacks. And we spend more of our time in meetings than we are actually trying to produce or get things done. So that would be my 2 tactical things to do. Start incorporating a power hour. If you can afford to do 2 or 3 or even 4 hours, that is going to be far better for you. Break those up so you're only doing it 50 minutes at a time. Take a 10-minute break. Reward yourself once you get to that 50 minutes. Go for a walk. Go outside, do something fun, and then start looking at what's the one day a week or the one day every other week that we're going to designate just as productivity time, not meeting time.
Oh, so true, man. Dude, you're speaking some good stuff here, man. I do want to ask, you speak about your kids, and obviously you're pretty fond of them. They're pretty important people, little people in your life. Yeah. And one of the things that I read about you was that you talked about eating dinner with your daughter, and she taught you something about important about sales. Do you mind sharing what that was?
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm constantly getting negotiation secrets, sales secrets just from my kids itself. And I can tell you what happened just this past weekend, right? I think like 8 and 6-year-old kids, at least for me, for daughters, they are the epitome of like what I try to be in sales. They are persistent. They are relentless. They are coming at it from all different angles. And so, just the other day, my daughter just handling my objections beautifully. She puts out this proposal of, hey, I want to have another scoop of ice cream. I put up, the barriers. No, you already had one. Then she spins it around. And then she starts telling me, and this is the 6-year-old, about how there's so much protein in ice cream and how she's growing and a growing body needs protein. And it's just like, well, all right. Yeah. Have a scoop. Yes.
That there, she has the craft. That's a professional. She knows how to manage her craft, and I commend her. So, kudos.
Yeah, thank you. I will tell her that.
Tell her she got a sales evangelist stamp of approval, whatever that's worth.
In our house, it's a lot. So, yeah, they love your podcast. They listen. So,
thank you, man. If there's one major piece of advice that you would like someone listening to this episode to walk away with in regards to building these habits, what's that one major piece of advice?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So I'll take it kind of 2 steps. So first is the tactical. So really try to, this is something you can do that's free. It's going to be easy. All you've got to do is try the power hour for 1 hour a day. Eliminate the email, don't have that up, and just really concentrate for, I'm not even saying to do it for an hour, just do it for 50 minutes. I think that's the thing that if every salesperson tried to put that into play today, they'd be a lot more successful. Not only from a result standpoint, but I think you'd feel a lot better. I don't know about you, Don, but like the day before a vacation seems to always be my most productive day. Right? You're just crushing it, right? You're just on fire, and you can get to that level in one of those power hours. And then the rest of the day just feels so much better, and you feel so much better about yourself. You have more confidence going into the rest of the day. You're going to have more confidence in your overall sales and your sales pipeline. So I think that's a really good, like, tactical step that everyone else should look at. And then the second one is I would really look at, like, and I know this may sound like woo-woo, or this may be too far out there, but I would go back to, what are you really trying to accomplish here? I think this coronavirus and the quarantine has really gotten people to look at, all right, what is important in their lives? Is spending time with my family or kind of this new normal, is this important to me? Are the goals that I'm chasing right now, are they going to matter to me? And are they going to matter to me in 5, 10, 15 years, whatever that is? And I would try to have those hard conversations with yourself, because that could change the whole course of your next decade or two here in sales.
Oh, man. We love this, man. Mark, thank you so much. And you do have a book as well, Mark, called Raise Your Standards. Is that okay? Is that the name of the book? I got it right?
Yeah, it's Raise Your Standards, the definitive guide to building 7-figure sales. And it looks like, and guess what? I just so happen to have a copy by me.
Well, that's I recommend you guys check that out. And if folks want to get access to that, where should they go to find it, Mark?
Yeah, so it's found on Amazon. So if you just go to Amazon, or you can go to my website, which is www.markpatrickevans.com. And there you'll also get a companion guide to go along with the book to help take some of the thoughts that we have in there and put it into practice.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking advantage of the time to come on a show and for being willing to come and share some insights with us. And I appreciate you doing all of that. So we'll put all that back in our show notes so folks can get access to the book and get access to you as well. And you're also on LinkedIn, so I'll make sure we tag that along as well. But Mark, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. And I look forward to seeing you and being neighbors.
I can't wait. Donald, thank you for all you do for the sales community. You are a man of honor and integrity, and I really, really enjoy your podcast and the guests that you have. So thank you for having me as part of it.
It's an honor. Thank you. That was our good friend, Mark Evans. And if you want to connect with Mark, just scroll down below if you're watching this video on YouTube, and you can see some of the links going back to Mark and his website, as well as the links going back to our website. You will also notice a link to our friends over at Crumble. Now, Crumble is an amazing tool, and I highly recommend you take advantage of it. It has a free plan, so you can start off. Here's the issue that I find with most CRMs. It's convoluted, it's too much, and it's just, it bogs down the sales rep. With Crumble, it makes it very easy and very simple to use, and it's the visual aspect that makes me like it myself and my team. So we highly recommend it. You can check it out for free. Just simply go to Crumble, CRM. I have the name pop up here on the screen so you can see it. crmble.com/TSE. Again, crmble.com/TSE. I share stuff like this. I bring on folks like Mark because I want you to succeed. I want you to find more of those ideal customers, the ones who are relevant for your business. I want you to know what to say and how to ask the right questions and to build value. I want you to know how to guide the deal down the process. I want you to know how to close the deal. But most importantly, I want to challenge you each and every single day to go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up in the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.